How's it going? Ryan Gilbert. I'm doing my TED Talk on Jessica Mendoza. Jessica Mendoza, for those who don't know, she's not as well known of a name as a lot of the other female athletes that some people have chosen. She is the color analyst for Baseball Tonight as her former job. Now she's the color analyst, for Sunday Night Baseball, their primetime ESPN baseball. They have their best game of the week. They do it on Sunday night. It's the only real game happening at that time. So a lot of people are watching, and she's one of the color analysts. There's normally two on that broadcast, along with the play-by-play. Jessica Mendoza. She was a softball player at Stanford. Great softball player. She holds NCAA records for average hits, home runs, slugging, stolen bases, and runs. Home runs and stolen bases. She was a special talent. She hit .416 over her career. Really, no one showed better discipline at the plate. Clearly, she had it down to a science hitting. And she was one of the best softball players in NCAA history. She brought Stanford to the Softball World Series for the first time. Fantastic player. And then she moved on to the U.S. team, where she won gold in the Olympics in 2003 and 2007, and also the Pan Am Games, 2003 and 2007 gold medals. Performed pretty well there as well. She moved on to the pro leagues, where she hit .491 in her rookie year, goes on maternity leave, comes back, hits .284, and then .377 in the following 2 years. She's got two sons. It's really impressive, her career as a softball player. That wasn't enough for her. She moved on. She wanted to break into sport media. She started out doing color and a little play-by-play for the Softball World Series. She did sideline reporting, the in-depth stories with the teams and the coaches and what other side stories would be going on. And she worked there for a while, and then really where she starts to break through comes into the baseball stage. Baseball isn't anything foreign to Jessica Mendoza. She grew up, her dad was a baseball coach. Baseball was all she really knew until it was time for her to play softball. Like little younger girls are instructed to do, because baseball's not an option, it's softball for the girls. Which was fine with her at the time. She didn't really think much of it. That's just what girls play. Baseball was all she knew, so it wasn't anything that escaped her during that time. But she went over to softball, obviously dominated there. So she, like I said, baseball's not foreign to her. She wants to be a figure in sport media. That's her goal. And she knows that the criticism, what the criticism is going to be before she even starts. She knows that there's going to be a lot of male criticism coming, that she didn't play baseball, how she's supposed to be a good color analyst, how she's supposed to add insight that's adding to the commentary of the play-by-play if she never even played this sport. She knows that criticism's there, so she, before she even really breaks into the industry, she starts playing, they call it catch. It wasn't catch. Jeremy Guthrie is a pitcher, major league pitcher, was a major league pitcher. Played at Stanford at the same time that Jessica was at Stanford. And she wanted to see what major league pitches were like at the baseball level. She obviously knew the softball level really well, and she was a good hitter. But in order to be an effective color analyst in her mind, and a lot of the criticism she knew she was going to face, she had to know the pitches that the major league hitters were going to see that she was commentating. So Guthrie was known for a good curveball, luckily for Jessica, because she just wanted to see curveballs and the different movement and what it looks like from a hitter's point of view. And she was obviously a very talented hitter at the softball level, but she just didn't see the type of pitches that major league hitters were seeing. So it was a great resource to have Jeremy there. Obviously spoke very highly of her in several interviews that he's done. So this leads Jessica to get a job on Baseball Tonight the nightly show that ESPN does, recapping baseball, games that are happening that night and that are still going on. She was on the Monday show. And what really showed there at ESPN on those broadcasts were how she really knew hitting. A lot of her critics kind of backplayed a little bit, or like, okay, well, she really does seem like she knows what she's talking about when she's hitting. Obviously, not all the critics were gone. There was still a lot of sexism towards her, like, this is still you're taking a man's job, has been a lot of the quotes and the comments made about it. But nonetheless, she stayed with it. She took the criticism. She worked on it. She worked very hard. She got an opportunity to move forward when color analyst on the Sunday night broadcast, Curt Schilling, got fired for some very interesting tweets that just ended his career as a color analyst, and got the opportunity moved over to Jessica, not because she was a woman, and she wanted to make that clear. Don't give me this job just because I'm a woman that wants to break into this industry, and I'm not bad. I want to earn this job, she said. And they said, you have earned this. You've shown great analysis in our Baseball Tonight show. We want you to do this spot one and see how it goes while Kurt's on a leave of absence, which ended up he didn't come back from. But that night ended up being Jake Arrieta's no-hitter for the Cubs, which she called beautifully. Was really the starting off point of her career. It was an exciting game. A lot of the emotions were high, and she really fed off that. She loves the big crowds of MLB games. So it was really good for her to be there. She was obviously nervous, but she did really well. So she still got the criticism. She ended up, as I said, her current position is she is now on all of the Sunday night broadcasts, Sunday night baseball broadcasts. But the critics weren't going away anytime soon. So obviously there are a lot of critics at a lower level, but where it really got more attention was where radio and analysts and TV analysts would criticize her, most notably a Fox Sports radio analyst on a podcast talking about baseball. Starts off his article with listing women that he, in sports, any kind of capacity that he liked to watch, liked to listen to prove he wasn't sexist, which is really not helping anything. And then just because you say, oh, I respect these women, and then you go on to say a bunch of sexist things doesn't mean that you aren't sexist. And said she was the worst announcer in baseball history. This is only a couple months into her full-time job with Sunday Night Baseball when he first said this. If she were a man, she would be fired. But the facts, he didn't have facts, actually. He said this, and even in the article he says, I am not aware of the ratings, but I know already that she's the worst in baseball history. And the ratings, little to his knowledge, were actually up. People liked her commentary. People liked her analysis. But he didn't even check those before he just blurted this out. A lot of people in the comments were disagreeing with him, but they were still conforming to the norms that play from mass media in starting comments with, actually, she's not that bad, she does pretty well, or contrary to popular belief, when really those comments, while nice in nature, start with the assumption that you assume she's bad or will be bad or won't be good just because she's a woman, she didn't play baseball, she's not getting a fair shot. Because of all the social society that baseball is a man's sport commentating has been done by men, it's not for women, just because that's how it's been. She is the first woman to have this position, especially in baseball. So it's unusual for a lot of people watching. But Jessica's the perfect person to play this role, to open the door. She doesn't want to just open the door, she wants to hold it open for people behind her to follow through. follow through the door into the mass media to help change the message that's getting sent out about women in sport media. Because the more women that enter doors into sport media get to change the message that's getting sent out. Because it's male dominated right now, and that's why the societal mindsets, precursors that we have about women in sport from mass media are the way they are, and that's why Jessica's faced a lot of backlash going into something that she is really good at. And her bosses believe in her, luckily. She obviously will face criticism throughout her career just because she is a woman and she is one of the first women to have this job, but she earned her spot. She wants to make sure that she's not getting things because she's a woman, and she's done a very good job of that. She keeps things professional. She doesn't appeal to the crowds of ESPN, and they don't want her to through sex appeal because she's a woman. Maybe, hey, baseball is getting a little slower, a little more boring, quote unquote, but let's sex it up a little bit. That's not what Jessica's there for. That's not what ESPN wants her there for. That's not what Jessica wants to be there for. And that's very clear. She is there for her color analysis because she is one of the best hitters in softball or baseball history. And she knows how to hit. And she knows how to break down hitting, even if she hasn't seen a curveball come at her. She knows what she's talking about, and that's very clear. One last thing I want to end with is really the moment Jessica Mendoza stepped into the spotlight for me is when she was on Baseball Tonight on a Monday. She kicked off her heels to show some hitting, and I was like, what's going on? It's kind of weird. She's going to show me how to hit a curveball. I was still skeptical at this point. It was one of her first shows. And then the analysis she brought after that was fantastic. And she had never seen a curveball. I've never seen a curveball, so I don't know what I would be talking about. And she nailed it. But yeah, Jessica Mendoza, real breakthrough in sport media.